Revenge with Emma. Effective immediately, Susan will no longer be with us. He said it like he was announcing the end of a buffet line. Just another Friday massacre on a department-wide Zoom call. I was mid-sip of lukewarm coffee when the words landed. Didn't even need to look up. I knew that voice, smug, nasal, with Ivy League frat stink baked in. Derek, the new CFO. Fresh off torpedoing some San Francisco startup, and now somehow running operational finances at Stratwell Systems. And just like that, Slack died in real time. 1 second I was replying to a bug fix. The next my session vanished. Contact administrator. Like I was some temp caught stealing printer ink. Calendar wiped. Access gone. No warning, no email. Just a slow digital erasure while my coworkers sat frozen, pretending not to hear. A few looked like they wanted to say something. No one did. Courage isn't currency in corporate America anymore. It's all CYA and praying the layoff lottery skips your square on the bingo card. I closed the laptop without a word, walked barefoot onto the patio, and let the Ohio wind slap me awake while I clutched my coffee. I don't remember sitting down, but I remember the sound of the plastic chair. A long, miserable squeak, like even it was embarrassed for me. Quick pause before, I tell you what really happened next. If you've ever been blindsided by corporate BS or enjoy watching arrogant execs get legally pantsed, hit that like button and maybe subscribe. 93% of you ghosts are just lurking, but it actually helps us keep digging up these stories. Back to hell. What hit me wasn't the firing. Not even the silence from my team. What hit me was the precision, surgical. Derek didn't just fire me. He erased me. Like a stain. Like a broken vending machine he could unplug. And he smirked while slicing the backbone out of the company's logistics arm, thinking it was fat. Joke's on him. He mistook the engine for an appendix. 18 months. That's how long I'd spent hardening the core architecture. Rewriting failover logic. Rebuilding pipeline routing from duct-taped spaghetti into something a Fortune 100 could actually rely on. It ran 24/7. Hundreds of vendor relays an hour. $95,000 flowing through the system every single hour. And here's the twist. That system? I licensed it to Stratwell. Didn't gift it. Licensed it. And buried in my contract, page 12, line 38, was a phrase everyone had forgotten. Hell, even I forgot about it sometimes. But it mattered now. Months after Derek arrived, the signs had crept in. Budget stripped. Strategy calls forgotten. Comments about getting younger minds on back-end ops. Cost efficiency whispers? I'd seen restructurings before. Usually meant squeezing interns for free labor. But this was different. Derek had a plan. And I wasn't part of it, but that contract? My recruiter had fought like a pit bull for every clause. Called them elevated protections. I laughed at the time. Overkill. One clause in particular stuck out, Section 9C. In the event of involuntary termination without protocol adherence, the officer of record retained temporary authority over licensed operational functions. It sounded ridiculous back then, like a sleeping grenade. Until today, as Derek smirked his way through my execution, he forgot the basics. No notice, no transition, no protocol, which meant the moment he pulled my access, he pulled the pin. Somewhere between laps around the cul-de-sac, me wandering like a feral Roomba with abandonment issues, my phone buzzed. Tessa. Old friend. Same state college, now in Stratwell Legal. We hadn't talked in months. Her message was short. Too short. Did you mean for Section 9C to do that? I stopped walking. Stared at the screen like it was a live grenade. I hadn't meant for it to do anything. I just made sure it could. Exact phrasing boiled down to this. Fire me without following protocol. And my licensed software goes into automatic legal freeze, uncontested, enforceable. Which meant no one, especially Derek, could touch the fallback systems. And Derek? He hadn't followed a damn thing. He treated it like a game of Survivor. Dramatic flair. Instant vote off. But what he really did was crash his own ship. Minutes later, confirmation hit. Ops environment fallback now restricted. Failovers already cracking. I sat down on the curb. Somewhere in the distance, a bird was shrieking, like even nature had something to say. Around me, neat little lawns stood in quiet rows, each house pretending the world still made sense inside its white fences. But I knew the truth. Derek hadn't just fired me. He'd pulled the wrong wire in a live circuit. Corporate revenge doesn't always come in screaming emails or broken glass speeches. Sometimes it comes in the form of a clause, silently waiting, doing exactly what it was built to do. At 11:08 p.m., my phone buzzed once. By 11:11, it sounded like it was dying in a seizure. Ping, ping, ping. The kind of sound a server makes when it's crying for help and no one understands the language. I flipped the phone over. Ops alerts stacked like dominoes. Automation failure. Vendor sync timeout. Escalation triggered. Route 02 rejected. Node 4 not responding. Invalid token. Access denied. Each one hit like a drum roll on a coffin lid. And me? I just stared. Calm, detached, like watching a train derail on mute. You have to understand something. I didn't build the back end to collapse. I built it to protect, to isolate risk, to fail gracefully. But I also built it with integrity. And when you fire the integrity, the rest doesn't hold up. The new cost-saving team was 3 junior engineers and a contractor Derek had plucked from someone's LinkedIn DMs, green as gooseberries. One of them once asked me if a logic gate was like a permissions thing. Not bad people, just unqualified. Derek loved them because they were cheap. And now they were scrambling, trying to restart a fallback environment locked under my name. Then came the hit that mattered. Vendor penalty. SLA breach. Client ID 09422. One of our top 3. Every minute of downtime. 5 figures lost. Still, I didn't move. I turned off the overhead light, sat in the glow of the phone, and let the chaos pile up like snow on an abandoned highway. Then, Tessa, I'm forwarding you something. Keep this quiet. 10 seconds later, a zip file dropped. Password protected, of course. I typed the phrase we'd used since college. Carbonara 42. Don't ask. Inside, a PDF dump of private company Slack channels. Legal. Ops. Exec. Dev. A live diary of breakdown. 1:19 p.m. Liam. Ops. Someone called Derek. Failover isn't syncing. Where's rollback? 11:20 p.m. Derek. CFO. Try restarting manually. We don't need Susan for that. 21 p.m. Megan. Dev. We do, actually. Legacy fallback still under her. On 22 p.m. Derek. That's impossible. She's removed. 11:23 p.m. Tessa. Legal. You didn't follow protocol. Section 9C invoked. Enforceable. 11:25 p.m. Derek. You've got to be kidding me. 11:26 p.m. Tessa. I'm not. By 11:27, the thread was a copy-paste circus of contract clauses, redacted logs, and one poor DevOps guy begging to know who owned the God certs now. Spoiler, I did, legally. Until a proper transition, it was mine. I leaned back, blank-faced, heartbeat steady. For the first time in months, I felt peace. Not validation, not victory. Peace. The kind that comes not from yelling "I told you so," but from watching the sky burn red, knowing you didn't light the match. You just weatherproofed the house before they tore off the roof. At 11:33, Tessa messaged again. You holding steady? I replied, herbal tea. Jeopardy reruns. How's Derek? No answer. Didn't need one. The log told me enough. Derek panicking. Legal quoting me. My system failing loudly, exactly as it was designed to do. And me not lifting a finger. The invite landed at 6:12 a.m. sharp. Subject, urgent ops continuity call, legal and CFO. No greeting, no context. Just a Google Meet link. I stared at it for 10 seconds like it might explode. Then sighed, tossed the comforter off and boiled water. Because nothing screams urgent like a multi-million-dollar pipeline crashing faster than executive dignity. By 6:57, I was showered, caffeinated, hoodie on. The mug beside me read, World's Engineer. Spiritually accurate. At 17 on the dot, I clicked join, and there they were. Derek, glassy-eyed, tie crooked, shirt wrinkled like he'd been wrestling paperwork all night and lost. Tessa, fresh and sharp as ever. A jittery junior legal associate, 2 silent black tiles labeled COO and Chief Legal Officer, probably dialing in from home offices where their dogs already sensed catastrophe. Derek forced a smile. Susan, thank you for joining. Appreciate you making time on short notice. Let's just be civil here. No one's pointing fingers. We just need your help walking through a few things. I smiled back, sweet, polite, deadly. Of course, I said, folding my hands. But first, I'd like Tessa to read something aloud. Page 12, Section 9C, silence. Then Tessa, calm as a surgeon, scrolled and began reading what sounded like Derek's obituary. Section 9C, all core operational. Functions licensed to employer are contingent on uninterrupted compliance with predefined exit procedures and authorizations. In the event of a violation or oversight of said procedures, the officer of record retains all suspension rights and fallback control access until protocol completion is verified. Silence. Derek exhaled like air was leaving a punctured balloon. He pressed his temples, as if he could squeeze the words out of existence. Tessa looked up, her voice steady. It's standard for Susan's level and her architecture work. The junior legal guy blinked. I thought that clause was symbolic. I raised an eyebrow. Symbolic? It's the only reason your fallback didn't hand off to an unverified node and cause a full breach. Derek opened his mouth. No words came. The COO's voice finally cut in, sharp and flat. We bypassed offboarding authorization workflow. And with that, the room knew. Derek hadn't just screwed me. He'd set fire to the foundation. Protocol forms were filed. No confirmation from her as officer of record. No transition documentation logged. So yes, bypass confirmed. The COO let out a single word. Jesus. Then the old-school counsel stepped in, steady and measured, not the twitchy junior. Susan, he said carefully, would you consider temporarily reinstating access to the fallback nodes in the interest of protecting company assets and client SLAs? I leaned back just enough to let the silence stretch. Let them feel it. I would, I said, but without adherence to the termination protocol, doing so would violate the terms of my licensing agreement. Derek finally tried to speak. I cut him off with a smile that was all teeth. You remember when you called me redundant? Turns out the pipeline disagrees. The junior legal guy mumbled something about timestamps. I pointed my cursor at the shared document. Check the logs, I said. I backed up the final architecture revision at 9:44 a.m. You terminated me 3 minutes later. Anything built after that is structurally unsound. Tessa added, legally unusable without her sign-off. Derek's camera glitched. His mouth hung open like he was searching for a new reality to live in, one where consequences didn't exist. I didn't flinch or gloat. I kept my voice calm and precise. This wasn't about revenge. It was a reminder. Just because someone doesn't shout doesn't mean they're not holding the detonator. I wrote the detonation clause. The COO's tile lit up full. Video on, tie slightly askew, jaw clenched like he'd bitten down on a lemon. No more passive listening. No more ghosting behind muted tiles. He leaned forward like he could physically intimidate bandwidth. Let's make this simple. Did we bypass the authorization workflow on Susan's termination? For a long moment, the room held its breath. Then one word came through, soaked in defeat. Yes. No excuses. No legal tap dance. Just that admission, and the kind of silence you only hear when something sacred has been broken. The junior legal guy tried to step in, voice cracking, but timestamps shut him up. Tessa bit the inside of her cheek to hide a smile. She knew what those logs meant. In systems architecture, timestamps are gospel. You can't gaslight server logs. They don't bend and they never lie. I turned my camera on full screen. No blur, no filter. Hair pulled back, hoodie zipped up, eyes that said, "You lit the match, Derek. Now lock the exits." "Let me be clear," I said. "You do not have legal access to the fallback environment." The COO blinked. "You're saying we're operating without control access?" I nodded once. "Correct. I'm still the certifying officer for core systems continuity. That designation was never revoked, not officially, not procedurally. Per Section 9C, any activation of fallback without my sign-off is a breach of my licensing clause." Chaos followed, a chorus of overlapping voices. Derek talking over someone from legal. Legal over Tessa. Tessa trying to cut through it. The junior associate muttering about ambiguity and bad faith. The COO slammed his hand up like a traffic cop and barked, "Enough." Silence fell. He turned to me. If we had followed workflow, 30-day transition, final confirmation, would this clause have triggered? I shrugged. Nope, I built in safeguards for a reason. I don't want the system to fail. It's my system. Strip me out without due process and quarantine protocols activate automatically. It's not malicious. It's math. Derek tried the old line. Sabotage. I laughed, a single cold exhale. You really want to say that on a recorded call, Derek? After bypassing protocol, revoking access before transition, and triggering Section 9C on live production. The chief legal officer's voice cut in low and heavy. "Derek," he said slowly, "Susan's right. We're exposed." The word drained color from faces and made boardroom silk sweat. I leaned in, neutral power in my tone. If you'd read the clause properly, you'd know this isn't about holding the company hostage. It's about keeping chaos from spreading. I designed it so the system would break clean, rather than spiral into corrupted syncs and misfired reroutes. Megan from Dev confirmed it aloud. That's exactly what was happening. The COO creaked back in his chair. Jesus Christ. Then he looked at me as if I were a safe with the code tattooed behind my eyes. "Susan, what would it take for you to recertify access?" I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I looked straight into the lens, calm and in control. Stop pretending I'm a rogue. You fired a systems architect with no transition plan, violated contract protocol, and triggered a clause you didn't bother to understand. I'm not your problem. I'm your failsafe. No one spoke for a beat. In that silence, something shifted. The power slid back across the table and settled where it belonged. Methodically, clause by clause, timestamp by timestamp, I took it. No tantrums, no screaming, just precision and the quiet surgical realization across that call. I wasn't the one who broke the system. They were, by 9:04 a.m. Derek had disappeared from Slack threads, no frantic pings, no half-baked commands, just vanished. Probably into a restricted access damage control call where executives whisper into Bluetooth headsets and pace in soundproof glass rooms hoping panic won't seep into the carpet. Meanwhile, people poked around the environment like digital raccoons and found not a buffet, but a vault. My environment wasn't an open-concept playground. It was compartmentalized modules, encrypted and keyed to specific identity tokens, mine. Since Derek nuked my credentials without a transition, those tokens pointed to a dead account. Oops, that's the thing about architecture built with integrity. It doesn't crumble. It rejects corruption. Every fallback node, every relay, every reroute script had checks, and every check pointed back to my verified key. No key, no access. And guess who still had the code? What? No access means no continuity, and no continuity means a symphony of angry phone calls. The first alarm hit at 9:47 a.m. A freight aggregation partner, not the biggest client, but twitchy as hell, hadn't seen their 5-minute relay ping in 40. Then came the email from Asia, unable to validate inventory sync. Please confirm if breach has occurred. 10 minutes later, another one. This time with the word penalty bolded like a scarlet letter. By noon, compliance was running fire drills like it was DEFCON 2. Every SLA breach had a $sign attached, and those numbers weren't small. 10 grand an hour in some cases. Multiply that across 6 vendors and 3 international clients, and Stratwell was bleeding cash faster than Derek could whisper contingency. Someone finally checked the legal chain of access tied to my name. And there it was, blinking like a warning light on a cockpit panel. Termination yesterday. Transition protocol never recorded. Officer of record revoked. Not applicable. Environment key transfer? Not executed. And at the bottom, bold and merciless. In absence of a verified 30-day transition, the licensee retains final operational veto over fallback environments and continuity pipelines. Boom. Legal couldn't unwind it. PR couldn't spin it. Finance couldn't plug it. And me? I was at a strip mall nail salon, wedged between a vape shop and a tax prep office, asking for a deluxe gel set in a shade called Exit Clause Red. While Mira buffed my nails and talked about her dog's Halloween costume, I scrolled through the digital funeral procession filling my inbox. Tessa's updates rolled in, calm, surgical, each one another nail in Derek's coffin. Client 09422 threatening breach action. CLO just asked Derek why we didn't backdate the logs. Someone in IT had even tried to bypass my encrypted shell. Flagged as breach attempt. Amateurs. I sipped cucumber water while Mira painted the 4th coat of silent vengeance on my fingers. They hadn't just underestimated me. They'd never even seen me. To them, I was back-end noise, a box that spit out uptime until it didn't. Meanwhile, Derek was reportedly spiraling. Slack whispers said he'd tried to bully a vendor into handing over a reset key, only to be reminded that their terms didn't allow manual overrides without the certifying officer's handshake. He'd built a kingdom of shortcuts, and now the roads were collapsing. At 1:37 p.m., Stratwell's head of client success finally typed what everyone else was thinking. We need to ask Susan what she wants before this gets worse. Too late. It was already worse. Me? I was halfway home, nails drying under a UV lamp, grinning like someone who'd written the ending before anyone else knew they were in the story. The offer came at 4:12 p.m. via encrypted email. Subject line, proposal confidential. No greeting. Just a PDF. A minute later, Tessa texted, "Read it, then call me." I opened it on my porch, blanket over my legs, a glass of Pinot in hand, wind chimes clinking out of tune like nature's laugh track. The PDF was exactly what I expected. Severance, 3 months' pay, a polite recommendation letter, NDA effective immediately. They called it a good faith exit agreement. I called it hush money with lipstick. I let the sun sink before I dialed Tessa. "You see it?" she asked, skipping the pleasantries. "Oh, I saw it." I sipped my wine. "I want my job back." She froze. "Are you sure? After everything?" "Same role," I said. "Same scope. But I pick my new supervisor." She didn't laugh, just exhaled, already bracing for the second punch. "And I want a written apology," I added. From Derek, in ink. Not boilerplate. Not "we regret the confusion." His words. His signature. That time she laughed. "You want to make him say it?" "No," I smiled into the glass. "I want to make him sign it." She went quiet then. "I'll take it to the board." "But they're scared." "This is different now." "How so?" "Legal's calling it surgical. Your clause triggered perfectly. Logs airtight. Clients aren't blaming you. They're blaming us. Derek's being called reckless. Procedural negligence." I swirled the last of the wine. "Tell the board if they want the bleeding to stop, they don't need my silence." What do they need? They need my return. An hour later, the message came, straight from the board liaison. Not PR, not legal. The real thing. Subject, proposal reintegration terms. Short, surgical. Just how I liked it. They'd reinstate me. Full authority. Reporting to the COO, not Derek. A public explanation framing my reinstatement as part of a strategic review. And attached at the bottom, scanned in blue ink, I acknowledge the failure in adhering to due process regarding your separation from Stratwell Systems. Your role and contribution were instrumental to our success. And I deeply regret the mishandling of your transition, Eric Willey. CFO Tessa texted a minute later. He threw a chair in the green room after signing it. Just FYI, I didn't respond. Didn't need to. By then, anger had burned off. Anger is messy. Strategy is clean. They thought they cut me out like dead weight. But I was the engine. And now they needed me, not just to stop the bleeding, but to remind them how the arteries were laid out in the first place. Let them offer hush money to someone else. I wasn't the whisper in the corner type. I'd taken their system apart without raising my voice. And now I was walking back in, with the scalpel. The board's invite landed like a hammer. Emergency governance session. Board plus external counsel. Attendance mandatory. Not a suggestion, a command. Even the execs who loved to join late or delegate it out weren't given that option. Everyone had to be there, especially me. So I chose the most inconvenient setting possible, a public park. No ring light. No curated bookshelf. Just me on a bench sipping gas station iced tea, cicadas buzzing while Derek's empire caved in. I joined 3 minutes early. Calm, casual, positioned under a tree like I was about to chat about gardening. Not corporate decapitation. The grid filled one square at a time. The board chair, outside legal from McAllister and Crow, because of course that's what they'd be called. The chief risk officer, and finally Derek, looking like spoiled milk in a wrinkled suit. No smugness, no smirk, just pale, clammy silence. The board chair cleared his throat, and the execution began. The meeting began with the board chair sounding like a man who'd been staring at too many zeros on the wrong side of a spreadsheet. Miss Mayers, thank you for joining on short notice. I gave a small nod. No pleasantries. No wasted air. You confirmed you were terminated without adherence to standard protocol? I pulled out my phone, tapped, and held it up. Yes, here's the audit log. Credential revocation at 9:47 a.m., 1 minute before the final backup procedures were scheduled. No transition plan filed. No formal sign-off. The CFO's tiny square on the screen twitched, like the guilt was too big to hide in a thumbnail. I kept going. Minutes later, the vendor pipeline collapsed. By hour 2, we'd triggered SLA breaches with 3 international clients. No one interrupted. Not anymore. The chair turned just slightly toward Derek. Do you know how many clawback clauses that activates? Derek didn't even lift his head. Just nodded slow, like a kid who finally admits he really did break the TV with the Wii remote. One of the external counsels leaned forward, jaw like carved granite, voice smooth and soulless. Miss Mayers, would you confirm your access was revoked unilaterally prior to protocol completion? Yes, and I've already sent over the IP logs and timeline to your office. He nodded, clipped. Like a courtroom witness who'd just heard the final nail slide into the coffin. Then came the risk officer, glasses catching the glow of her monitor. We're modeling losses in the low 7 figures. Double if attrition kicks in. The board chair didn't flinch. We won't lose those clients. Not if we show them who really runs the ops engine. And then he turned, finally, directly at Derek. You bypassed Section 9C. Revoked access from the officer of record on a live environment. Do you have anything to say? Derek opened his mouth, closed it again. Nothing. Just a limp shrug, as though gravity itself had crushed the last of his excuses. I stirred the ice in my cup, watching him the way you watch a wounded animal in a nature doc, once king of the jungle. Now a footnote in the food chain. The COO cut in, sharp as a blade. He's compromised the board's credibility. The chair gave a single nod. Administrative leave until final review. No shouting, no drama. Just silence, gray and suffocating, until Derek's square dimmed into background noise. Then the chair turned back to me. Miss Mayers, the board would like to reinstate you. Effective immediately. You'll hold veto authority over all core system changes. Executive Vice President, Core Systems Integrity. I didn't answer right away. Silence is power. Let them feel the absence. Let them feel what it's like when the backbone steps out and the body collapses. Finally, I smiled, small, deliberate. I'll consider it. But not under him. The chair didn't blink. Understood. Derek's camera went black. Just like that. Erased. The general counsel leaned in, voice clean and cutting. For the record, Section 9C, Line 7. Termination without protocol invokes unilateral suspension rights by the officer of record. She didn't need to say Derek's name. No one did. Every face on that call carried the same thought. It's over. Derek tried once more, throat clearing, hand half raised. I think we're taking that clause out of context, and if I can just... The board chair raised a palm, 5 words that cracked the empire. We're done here. That was it. His square muted, then gone. A ghost in the logs. The chair returned to me, voice softer now, almost respectful. The board unanimously approves full reinstatement. Effective immediately. I let the silence hang, longer this time. Not because I needed more, but because silence reminded them of the truth. They weren't offering this out of goodwill. They were offering it because they had no other choice. Still sitting on my park bench, sipping half-melted iced tea, I leaned forward. I'll consider it. But not under him, no pushback. No defense. Just quiet, heavy understanding. They all knew. The house had been burning for 24 hours, and Derek had been the one striking matches. The call ended without ceremony. No applause, no smiles. Just the machinery of consequence grinding to its inevitable conclusion. I stayed under the tree, listening to the wind in the leaves. Pulled up my contract again, the line Derek once mocked as overly cautious. Termination without protocol invokes unilateral suspension rights by the officer of record. They thought it was fluff. I knew it was a fuse. They thought I was an asset, something you could delete with a click. But I wasn't an asset. I was infrastructure, and infrastructure doesn't beg. It doesn't whine. It just waits, quiet, patient, until misuse forces it to show the receipts. I stood, tossed my empty cup into the trash, and walked. Not because I was running from anything, but because I knew, with absolute certainty, exactly where I was going. And why no one could ever move me without checking the clause first. And I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I never forgot what they thought they could erase. Thanks for joining the fun, office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's keep making your former coworkers sweat.